First things first, obviously, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
Obviously, I've got a big question off the bat, and it's in regards to the current climate with the market. Obviously, recession is round the corner. What do you think the housing market is going to entail over the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Well, I think there's a lot of negativity out in the press at the moment about mortgage rates, interest rates, all the boring stuff that nobody wants to listen to. But I think the houses at sort of 200,000 to 800,000 are going to be affected because obviously lending, borrowing money at the moment is pretty tricky because everything's going up. But with me, thankfully, with our business, it's luxury properties only. So it's 1 million plus, so everything's cash purchases, which is good. And I think if you're a local estate agent doing the local traditional stuff, you're probably going to struggle. And that's why, I'm sure we'll come on to it in a bit, like a business like ours with the American style of marketing and social media is very, very important. And that's the game changer.
What do you, because I know exactly what you're talking about with like that American style marketing. What do you think about Grant Cardone?
He's got good energy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the US for 8 years, so I've kind of like to the untrained eye and to a lot of British people because we're relatively reserved. He seems like full on, but that's the American way. I think it's just, he's just on camera. He's very passionate, very spiritual, which is cool to listen to. But I think for me being in the US for 8 years, I'm kind of tired of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
He's intense.
Really, really intense.
You're a fanboy of his.
I used to be a lot more of a fanboy, but I'm a little bit less now. I think he's a bit too intense for me now.
Yeah.
He's a bit too like in your face.
Do you think he's legit?
I would hope so because he charges a hell of a lot of money. And my business partner, Tyler, he's traveled the world to watch him. I think he probably charges like 10 grand a course or something.
Seminar, yeah.
So he's making a lot of money. And if you look at the audience size, that's a hell of a lot of people there.
Have you been to any of them?
No.
No.
I couldn't.
I would go. Yeah, I would definitely go, mate. I like Grant Cardone. I always have. I think he's ballsy. And not only ballsy, but like he's all about action. And I rate that about him. I do think he's a bit too much sometimes.
Yeah.
I did see him on a podcast on a stage recently talking about if you earn £400,000 or less, like you should be ashamed of yourself, which was mad. But I did like kind of rate it as well because like I thought about it, and if you actually unpack that anyone has the ability to make that sort of money if they commit and for a long enough period and try hard and find the right product.
Yeah.
So like I could kind of see the logic in it.
Yeah.
But it's obviously a bold statement, isn't it?
He speaks a lot of sense, and I think what I like about the real estate industry in the US is a lot of these agents are earning millions of dollars a year.
They're ballers, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. They're driving Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, nice suits, nice houses. They portray that lifestyle, and they're selling these houses, but they actually live in these houses. And then if you flip it to the UK, the top earners here on 30 grand a year as a salary.
Dead, isn't it?
It's like, how can you can't, I know you've got to like, portrayal is everything, isn't it? It's like how you're setting the standards, but you can't live a life like this, but then present yourself to be this millionaire luxury agent, but then live in a 2-bedroom flat kind of thing. It's like, it's such a huge difference between the Americans and the British.
What is the difference?
I think the American agents, you've got to be qualified, you've got to have a license, you've got to be educated in real estate. And
you saying UK and educated?
Yeah, well, with real estate, if you're not a real estate agent, tomorrow you could be.
That's very true.
Without a license, and it's like, how does that work? Because if this is, especially at the luxury end, if you're selling the biggest asset somebody owns, but you're not licensed or regulated or educated, it's like, how can you do that? It makes no sense to me. But the Americans, they are, and they command big fees, 5-6% fees. And in the UK, it's 1%. So you see why the difference of earnings is so huge between the two.
How about the marketing side of it? What's different?
They show the lifestyle, they show the value, they, walk through tours, drone footage. It's full on. Social media is huge. They'll spend, Josh Altman in the US, he'll spend 50 grand per house just on social media spend.
Who is the guy? I can't remember his name, but he does like the luxury home tours. He recently did one for Grant Cardone. He always wears a black suit, black t-shirt. Do you know the guy I'm on about?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
It's kind of foreign guy, I
think. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's Ezra or something.
That's it. I watched that with my missus because it's like good middle ground for us because like otherwise it's a bit too businessy. It's a bit too, so it's like nice in the middle. And some of the properties he does are like ridiculous, like 450 million pound villas and stuff like that.
Crazy.
And they are unbelievable. But I said to my missus, if you are going to do the tours, you need to match it with the quality of the content.
Yeah.
And I think he does it well.
Yeah. And that's what I've tried to bring back here, because obviously he's going for it and he's showing, and he's not necessarily that great a presenter.
I think he's actually quite decent because he's so like authentic.
Exactly.
With it.
But a lot of people think you've got to act and you've got to go overboard on it. But I just think he's just a nice guy, just presenting the house, just walking through the house. And that's all people want. They don't want to be sold to.
No, definitely.
The house sells itself, to be honest.
I've seen a couple who do the tours and they are very try-hardy. They try far too much.
Being a try-hard's the worst as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think they go way too above and beyond to portray like something. Say there's like a sofa or a worktop or a kitchen. They're like, oh my God, have you seen this kitchen? It's like,
that guy does that with, for some reason, dishwashers. In every house, he gets a dishwasher out. And I'm like,
it's a dishwasher,
there's
bro.
obviously going to be a dishwasher in a 400 million pound house. Do you know what I mean?
No, I used to do that. Mine used to be very scripted.
Yeah.
And when I was watching it, I was thinking, this doesn't sound right. It sounds too salesy. And if this is a 20 million pound house, you don't have to be that salesy. And I found the more success I'm having recently is when I'm just kind of very relaxed about it, and as if somebody's on that viewing with me, rather than saying, oh my God, look at this amazing glass, such a beautiful glass, look at this microphone, look how black it is, oh it's so good. It's just like, just be relaxed with it, because people want to watch like they're there rather than they're being sold to in this really cheesy style.
Mate, I'm completely with you on that. So go on, tell us, what's the most memorable property you've sold? Describe it to us.
Well, it's exchanged recently at 31 million, and it's
big boy
house.
Yeah,
big boy house. I think it's 28,000 square foot, 40 acres, biggest pool I've ever seen, 3 staff bedrooms, 6 in the main house, stable, everything. We had it on at 20 million and managed to negotiate it up to 31 million.
That's a big upwards negotiation. 11 million.
50%.
Yeah. And it was on for 4 or 5 years with, I think, 5 different agents.
Do you think, well, were you able to get that through your social?
Yep, through YouTube.
I thought it might be.
Through YouTube within 3 weeks. And it was on for 5 years with other agents, which is just crazy.
That's madness. What does that do to someone like yourself when you're selling a property of that size? Like, does it motivate you? Like, how? Because like, I can imagine myself, for example, if I was selling a property like that, I'd be like, I want to get one of these. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh fucking hell! Like, it's like when they say, like, if you want to, say for example, you want to get a Rolls Royce, you should go and sit in a Rolls Royce. You should go and see the Rolls Royce. You should go and like feel the leather in the Rolls Royce so that you know and you can like visualize and whatnot. Like, is it the same with houses?
It's big. It's sort of motivational, and I think I had a luxury brand in the US. It was building like $50,000 gazebos, and that was kind of inspirational for me when I was building these gazebos and these mega mansions, because it was like the top end could afford these. And then I thought, really want one of these houses. And then when I came back to the UK and selling these, because our business model in the US is 50,000 is great, but we need to get on with the next one. So that's what I'm very much like here. It's like, selling a 30 million pound house is good, the check's good, the social media presence is great, but that can easily be forgotten within 6 months because the next guy's going to be in. So my job is to get on with the next property, build that client base, find the next house, and just take it to the next level.
How do you build the client base for somebody who's going to be spending £30 million on property? Because it's quite a niche client base, so it can't just be through social, surely. Surely there's other avenues you build it with.
Yeah, socials is a big one, but I also think it's the way you price a property. So that client, he wanted 25 to 30 million, and I said, you've tried that approach for 5 years and it's not worked. I need to do something aggressive. So I need to price it offers over 20, and I need to get people in the door. I need to meet people. I need to have an open house. I need to put a lot of money behind it, social media wise.
What does it cost in terms of like money to put behind something like that?
For an average agent, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be photos, stick it on Rightmove, wait for the phone to ring. They'll get paid regardless. But for me, I'm commission only, and so are all the agents that work for me. So it's, you want money, you go out and you chase that money. So
I rate that.
You got to, and this is what I learned from the US, having a construction company. We would buy expensive tools, expensive trucks, but that was necessary. And then coming back to the UK, it was like, okay, I don't need tools to do this job. So what am I going to spend the money on? What do I invest in? And it's yourself, your own social media
content.
Yeah, massive amount of content. So it's $4,000 on Instagram, $4,000 on Facebook, Google Ads, YouTube. LinkedIn, you can't really boost it, but you can send a lot of DMs on LinkedIn. TikTok is big. Private invites, they cost thousands to send like, you know, really nice postcards out in the post with a QR code on it, which goes to the main video. So you can spend whatever you want. If you want to spend 25 grand pushing a house out, you can. Nobody's going to do that, but we will, because we know if you've got a £500,000 fee, what's 25 grand?
So do you front load the cash?
Yeah.
And then eat in the commission?
Yeah.
So if you don't sell it, you don't earn nothing.
You're screwed.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
So you got to sell it, right?
You charge them a bit up front. So you can charge them maybe 1,500 up to sort of 5-6 grand up front, which contributes towards it. Because you say, look, it's obviously a lot of risk for us. It's a big reward, but at the same time, we need you to have a bit of skin in the game. And they're all good with that at the higher level. The lower end properties, people are like, I don't understand your fee. It's 2.5 times everybody else. And you want me to pay money out of pocket? But I think you show them the results you get. And most of these people at the top end are kind of business-minded people. They understand you've got to invest in order to gain. So a lot of them are happy to do it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So on a deal like that, what's the commission structure? Is it more like the 5%, or are you looking sort of UK rates at the 1%?
So UK rates are 1%. US is 5 to 6. So we're basically right in the middle. So we're 2.5% plus VAT. A lot of people think, well, that's sort of top heavy, but I say to people, it's only expensive if you accept a terrible offer.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
If you're going to take 25 million and my fee's 1%, that's going to cost you, what's the maths there?
250. No one wanted nobody wanted to gamble that.
Yeah, I was thinking 250. But then, you know, if the fee is 2.5% at 30 million, we're not even going to guess what that number is. Say 600 or 700 grand, just to throw that number out there. But are you going to pay somebody an extra 500 grand when you're getting another 6 million in your pocket?
It's a no-brainer.
Of course you are. But a lot of people don't understand that. They think in the UK, the cheap agent is the best. But the cheap agent and the best agent are not necessarily the same thing.
You get that with everything, right?
Yeah.
Like digital marketing, for example, you could pay, you know, standard agency or a low-end agency £500 a month. Mm-hmm. They get you poor results, or you can pay someone 2.5 grand and they get you better results. It's, you know, comes down to what you pay at the end of the day, especially when it comes to service. And luxury end requires, I can only imagine, requires that distribution in order to actually get the leads through the door.
Yeah. And one of my clients, he's a big barrister and he charges 6 grand an hour. And he was arguing my fee with me. And I was like, let's just be honest with each other. I said, you charge 6 grand an hour for what you do. I'm sure I could find a barrister for probably, there's got to be one out there for £500 or £600 an hour. And I said, why do you command these fees? And he said, well, it's my experience. It's what I've learned over the years. It's the result I'm going to get you. And I said, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
I said, it's exactly it. And I said, look, you fly first class, right? And he said, yep. I said, I can see your watch. I know you've got 2 Rolls Royces in your garage and a Lamborghini. You're used to paying the top end for everything. And he was like, right. And I said, but if this is the most expensive thing you own, why would the cheapest person be at the front of your mind? I said, it doesn't make any sense to me because you're paying top end for everything. I said, imagine you get a divorce. You're going to use a good lawyer, probably an expensive lawyer, to make everything good. If you're getting your teeth done, you're probably going to go to a good, expensive dentist. If you've got a bad back, you're not going to go to the Chinese massage parlor down the street for £30 an hour. You're going to a chiropractor, right? And he was like, yeah, it makes sense. And I said, look, your house is, and this was worth 5 million. I said, if your house is worth 5 million, you've got to put it in the hands of a professional. And that's what I'm here to do. And I'm not here to give it away. I'm here to get you the most money possible. And that cost me a lot of money. But in return, it's going to be 2.5%. And funnily enough, he went with other agents at 5 million, didn't sell it. I sold it for him at 5.65 million. So the fee was irrelevant. And he was like, why didn't I listen to you in the first place? So I was like, I tried to tell you, I tried, but you can't always like go in just saying, you know best. Sometimes it's good for them to go and try the cheaper agent. And then they come back to you with open arms, basically, because they know you're going to get the result.
Yeah, mate. What is it with, like, I don't know about you, but like people like at the top earners, like being tight with like,
that's why they got their money.
Yeah, like, yeah, but true. Like with like illogical decisions. Yeah, like your proposal, you're going to get more money, more value for the house. The fee's higher, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to eat more.
Yeah.
So like, what is the?
I think it's
downside.
Just historically, estate agents in the UK are not the most trustworthy. So as I said, like in the US, I think they did this like massive survey at one of these big conventions. What's the number one most important thing in an agent? And it was trust. Like, it's like trust, brand, results, blah, 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 on this list. And then in the UK, the number one is fee. So it's like, who's the cheapest? In the UK is the most important, but in the US, it's who do you trust more? So I'm not here to, I can't change the world, you know, in the UK estate agency, but I'm very much trying to push that American, Australian style, because they charge good money, they get good results, their social media is incredible, and they earn big money as well. So it's a mistake that people are not doing more of it in the UK.
Yeah, I rate it. Ryan Serhan style.
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah, he's a boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's changed the game.
He has.
He's
definitely influenced it. So I'm obviously interested, you know, that's kind of where got to today in terms of like, you know, the proposition with the business model. But where did you actually sort of grow up, and I guess what was it like growing up for yourself?
So I'm a Plymouth boy. So I grew up there for sort of 20 odd years. Good, like happy upbringing with my family. And then moved to that luxury construction company. We started with somebody else in the UK.
Let's pull it back. So obviously growing up in Plymouth, what's that like?
Coastal town, in Cornwall, surfing like every weekend, playing a lot of golf, just very relaxed, very chilled out.
Yeah, because obviously we're from Bournemouth, so I can imagine it being similar, slow pace.
Yeah.
A lot of like outdoor activities and just like, I guess just
chilling.
Yeah, chilling is the way of like, it is chilled vibes, isn't it? You go to London, you're like, the contrast is just insane.
It was crazy for me. I mean, you never really leave. I'm a big Manchester United fan, so I would go up to Manchester from, you know, time to time, which is a big journey. It's like a 6-hour drive from Plymouth. So yeah, I spent a lot of time watching Manchester United, playing a lot of football myself, playing a lot of golf. Went to uni. What
were you like at school?
Yeah, I was all right. I was a sporty kid. I was a bit of a late bloomer, so girls weren't really on the forefront. I was an odd looking kid. like really like long arms, really skinny, weird, like no facial hair, I think, until I was like 19. So that's why I just never shave it. I'm not letting you go. It took so long to get here.
Fair.
So yeah, not really into girls until sort of later on in life. But yeah, I was very business minded. I did business at university as well.
What did you study?
Business studies and marketing.
Oh, okay, cool.
Where do you think that business mind came from? Was it like a family member who was into business, or?
Yeah, so my dad had I think they had like a sandwich company, my mum and dad, when I was growing up. So I don't really know where it came from. I think my uncle was a successful taxi company owner down in Plymouth. I think they turn over a few million. So I was kind of always surrounded by business-ish people. But again, this is Plymouth, like very chilled out. It's not like city boys or brokers or anything like that. It's kind of, I don't really know where it came from, to be honest. But
were you working in the family businesses like part-time or anything like that?
No, I think I had a bit of a very messy kind of childhood. So I think when I was 12, my mum left the family home. So I was with my mum and dad until I was about 12, and then still don't really know what happened. My dad found a new partner. We were there for 5 or 6 years. And then I was just sort of like, at 17, I was like, I have to get out. Like, I'm going to leave. So I went to live with my friends, went to university.
Were you still in contact with your mum at that point, or was she just...
She was gone. So I didn't even know where she'd gone.
What's that do to you sort of in that moment? Because, you know, it's your mum at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it messed me up. And I think at 12, I mean, nobody really wants to be like a mummy's boy, do they? But like, especially at 12, 13, when you're kind of going through that transition. Well, my transition was later. It was a late bloomer, but yeah, it was a weird one. But luckily, you know, my dad was like very hard on me, very strict. So we had like, you know, it was go to school, don't mope about it too much, which was pretty brutal. So I think that's why a lot of why I am like I am today is because it's been quite regimented, and you've got to look after yourself, and no one else is going to be looking after you kind of mentality. So yeah, so she left, and then I kind of had to pick up the pieces, I guess, with my dad and his new partner. And I kind of went and did my own thing, went to university, did some traveling, didn't really speak to my dad too much after that because it was kind of messy. And I think the older I got, the more I learnt what was actually going on.
What was going on?
So apparently it was some say it was an abusive relationship on one side. On the other side, it was an affair. And it was like, what's the truth? Because I'd, you know, grown up with my dad, never seen him do anything bad. Like we'd go to United together all the time, and he'd take me to football all the time, and never saw anything bad going on in the household. But it was obviously rumours flying around. and then affairs flying around, all that kind of stuff. So it was intense. It was kind of like emotional. So it was like when I let go and left home and did some traveling and whatever, like the relationship with my mum was kind of non-existent, and then my dad non-existent, and then out of nowhere she reappeared. Like
how old were you when she reappeared?
I think early 20s. So it was like a good 9 years without her, and it was kind of like years without even thinking about her at one point. So it's like I don't even know where she is. And then
you're not like worried and
yeah. But I went through it for years, and I was just like, I got to focus on myself because I'm going to send myself insane if I carry on.
Did you try and like find her? Or?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah,
and I don't think Facebook was really. I think Facebook was kind of. I remember being on it when I was at like 20, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm 37, 38 now, so I don't know whether I just wasn't interested or whether it was just out sort of like 20 years ago. But it wasn't really a thing that you could search for people. And I was just getting on with my life. I was like, this ruined my childhood. Not going to let it ruin like the next step.
Mate, like that is massive, isn't it, Cal?
Yeah,
like,
it's huge.
I couldn't, like obviously from my perspective, you know, my dad left, but I have a different relationship with like my mum.
Yeah.
And like my mum leaving would have, without knowing where she had gone, what I can imagine was like, drive me insane, mate.
No, it did. And as I said, it sort of messed me up a lot.
So whereabouts was your head at when your mum reappeared and you didn't really have sort of like we call it like a functional relationship with your dad? What are you thinking? Because you've been traveling, you've explored the world.
Yeah.
So after traveling, did you come back and like what were you doing? Where was your head?
I think I was just working at some bar or something when I was like early 20s, and then my phone rang, and it was because my mum always just called me Dame. Like, Dame, all right, Dame, especially in like the Plymouth accent. It's like, all right, boy, all right, Dame. And one day my phone just went, and she said, all right, Dame. And I was like, who the hell is that? I was like, nobody calls me that. And I was like, who's that? And she literally said, it's your mum. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, can I swear on here?
Yeah, of course, mate. Crack on.
Yeah, and I was like, shit, this is surreal. And I said, where are you? I was like, what are you doing?
And you've just come back from traveling at this point.
Yeah.
And you finished university.
Just starting university, or
okay.
midway through university, basically working at a pub.
And where are you, like in the country?
In Plymouth.
Oh, so you're in Plymouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
At Plymouth University, so I was always around that area. And at this point, I'm sort of grown up a bit. I'm not angry. I'm more like, I need to know what the hell's going on, kind of thing. So I said, right, where are you? And I expected her to be like, God knows, like Yorkshire or something. And she was like, no, I live in Cornwall. It's like 5-6 miles away from where I was. And
no way.
So was she there the whole time?
Whole time.
What did you say to her?
I said, meet me at this pub. I'm working. It's like a little villagey pub, just bringing in some money whilst I was studying. And obviously the last time I saw her, I was short, weird kid, as I said, at like 12, 13, weird gangly thing. And I said, look, and she said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, just come there tonight. I'm going to be there from like 6 till 10, like little villagey pub. And then she walks in with this guy, and I was just like, oh my God, this was weird.
Have you spoken to your dad at this point?
No.
Because
he would flip.
Right.
He would flip. So yeah, she came into the bar and she was just like shaking. You could see her like physically shaking. And I was fine. I just walked around the bar, just gave her a massive hug. And I was just like, it's good to see you. And then
what did it feel like in that moment?
It was pretty nice. It was pretty nice. I didn't really know what I was going to think. And I was thought, am I going to be angry? Am I going to be upset? Am I going to be, and I was just like, just don't overthink it. I just put my arms around her, I just give her a big hug, and obviously 6'2" compared to like a little boy before. So she was shaking. She said, look, I just don't really know what to do. Can we like meet up again in like a couple of days? It was a bit overwhelming for her. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So it was a weird one. It was a really, really weird situation. And then the relationship was good for a good like 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Did you find out what had happened, or was it just sort of he says and she says?
Basically, I mean, without going into it
of course
too much and trying to ruin people's like, you know, credibility or whatever. It's just messy.
Yeah.
It's just really, really messy. And there's a lot of things, I guess, as a kid that you don't really know what's going on. But I'm not angry at anybody. But I told my dad that I met her.
How did that go?
Disowned me like that.
Really?
That second.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was like, that's it.
So did you tell him quite soon after you met your mum, or was it?
Yeah. I was like, because me and my dad was still like, had a decent relationship. But I was just, you know, grown up kid, you're sort of doing your own things, aren't you, early 20s. And I told him, and he was like, how could you do that? Like, but I was like, I've got my right to do this. But I think from his side, it was like, you don't know how much damage he did to us growing up. And I understood, because it was a lot of damage. So I kind of gained my mum in that day, lost my dad, like within the same week, basically. And I was just like, this is crazy stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'm grown up enough now. I'm obviously in like my 20s. I was like, I need to go and do something. So I found this company, Crown Pavilions. They sell these luxury gazebos. Was working for them as like a sales guy.
So do you start, basically you need a change in that moment? You start going into sales at that point?
So I moved to Northampton, to like Midlands kind of way. Moved to Northampton.
Bit random.
Yeah. It was far enough away though. It was far enough. It was a sales job where you're basically going to the Cornwall show, the Chelsea Flower show, the Tatton Park show up in Manchester. And it was like, you're taking these gazebos to all these trade shows all over the country. So it was like, okay, I can be somewhere right in the middle of England. Northampton's good. I don't know anybody. Moved in with one of the sales guys.
Mate, that's mad, mate. Yeah. Isn't that mad,
yeah,
Cal?
It's crazy.
Like, that's actually like, that's a bold move.
It gets crazier.
Yeah, like, because if you actually think about it, like,
yeah,
you're at that time in university, right? Mm-hmm. So do you drop out
I've
of
just
university?
Left university.
Oh, so you just leave university and then you just think, I need to get away from this mess.
It's messy. It's crazy. Plymouth is chilled out, but it's a very small place.
Slow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to the casino. I'm playing some poker with my friends and everything. Everybody knows your business. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this. So I know I'm business minded. Just finished Plymouth University. Found this great job where we're selling these expensive gazebos, basically. They range from like 10 grand to 50 grand, meeting all these really, you know, elegant people like Chelsea Flower Show, all these celebrities and everything. I was like, yes, this is cool. So I moved in with my buddy into an apartment in Northampton. And I was like top sales guy for about 5 years. And I was smashing it.
Off the cuff, just got it?
Straight away. First trade show was like 8 sales, like 2-3 grand in a day or something. And I was like, okay, this is like commission-based salesy. This is cool. I know I'm going to be able to succeed at this.
Was that like a natural ability, or did you have some form of skill set from somewhere else?
Gift of the gab, a lot of people said.
Yeah.
And I was like, and a lot of people say you can't really teach that. I mean, business, you don't really learn until you're going into business. But I think I was good at talking to people.
Communication, right? Yeah.
And I think because I've been through a lot of shit over those years, it was like, there's no plan B. I need to succeed, and I need to show everybody I can make it. And all this crap, you're going one of two ways, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're either losing it to drink and alcohol and like ruining your relationships with women, all that kind of stuff, or you can just be a success and a really good dad. I guess that was my thought.
Use it as the fuel.
Yeah. So I was their top sales guy, and my best friend was one of their top landscapers and carpenters. And we were like, we're good at this. We can't keep making this company all this money. We need to go and do this ourselves.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that always happens?
Yeah.
Like as soon as you start like making or earning something for the business, you're like, yeah, like I should just do this on my own.
Exactly.
Let's just have a punt on my own.
Yeah. But this guy, the owner of this business, wasn't somebody to mess with.
Right.
So it was like, if I do this in England, I'm going to get something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I said to my buddy, I was like, look, I moved from Plymouth to Northampton. We did this. How crazy do you want to get with this?
At this moment in time, have you made a life in the Midlands, I take it?
Kind of. Yeah, not really like settled or bought a house or anything like that. I was always on the road, always in hotels, kind of.
Field sales vibes.
Yeah, just like different clubs, different bars, different cities, meeting new people all the time. And that obviously gets tiring and expensive. And like the hangovers are ridiculous when you're trying to get up at 7 a.m. and be presentable and put on a suit and talk to all these posh people. So we got to that point where we made enough money that we saved some money in the bank. And then we sat down and we said, like, what do we want to do? Because we're good at this. I don't think we should change what we're doing, but I think we should start it ourselves. So let's go to America.
So yeah, why America?
So obviously we were selling luxury English gazebos, and we said to each other, like, where can we go in the world? So we literally got a globe out and we span it around, and we were like, right, wherever we land, we're going.
I love that.
Yeah, that's sick, isn't it?
Because there was no kids. There was like, it was just no like relationships or anything. It was just like, we're going. So we span it around, bang, China, and we were like,
yeah, we can't do that there.
So how's your Chinese side? And it was like, yeah, not very good. And then the next spin, San Francisco. So we looked at San Francisco, and it was like San Jose, San Mateo, San Diego wasn't too far. And there was like big money, like tech money, Google, Facebook, I think eBay, are all in California. And we started to look at the plot sizes, big houses, big gardens, and we were like, let's just go for it. So we made 2 of these gazebos in our garage in England, stuck them in a shipping container, sent them to America, booked like 5 trade shows, and we're like, let's just get a house for a year, just see what happens.
First, and just what, hammer the trade shows?
Hammer them.
Yeah.
We knew it. We perfected it in the UK, and we were like, you know, English and American, we're different-ish, but we all speak the same language. They've got gardens. They're going to love it. And then we struggled for the first couple.
Really?
They were like 30,000 for a gazebo, because they've got a place over there. It's like B&Q here, but it's called Home Depot.
Okay.
You can get a gazebo for $600. The next most expensive one is probably 2,000 at a push.
That's what I thought. So when you just said that they were like tens of thousands of pounds in my head, I was thinking like,
that's a caravan.
that,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like, that's a lot for a gazebo.
Our cheapest was 30 grand. We went over with the big boys, the
Why
big
were
models.
they so, what like makes them so good?
They're like fully furnished. It was made of Canadian cedar. There's like hot tubs in them, TVs. It's like a room more than a gazebo. So yeah, we got a bit of abuse for it, and we couldn't really build them that well in the US because we didn't really have a facility. So it was kind of taking down the same model, taking it to a new show, damaging it, like fixing it. And it was like rebuilding the same thing like 10 times. But eventually it kicked in. I think we did like 100 grand in the first year. And then the second year was like 250.
Obviously in the first year is a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
And obviously like you've taken a massive punt, right? You've left like a decent job paying decent commission where you're smashing it in the UK.
Oh yeah.
Where's your head at?
We were living in a 2-bedroom terrible house with a workshop now in the back garden.
Whereabouts?
In the middle of like a desert in the middle of California, like Central California.
Breaking Bad vibes.
It's a place called Fresno. It's like a real shithole, like really bad place. Lots of crime, lots of gun crime. But we had like 2 acres, desert, workshop, and a small house, and we were sharing like boxes of cereal for breakfast, dinner, like all of it. We were like scrimping and saving, but we wanted to get to these trade shows because we knew what the potential was.
In the trenches.
Yeah. And we were getting like our hands dirty for like the first 2 years. But then year 3, we did $1 million. Year 4, we did a couple million. Year 5, primetime TV in the US.
So how does that come about? Because obviously like jumping from 100 grand year 1 to $1 million year 3, you know, it's quite a jump. So is that just from the trade shows?
Just working your ass off.
Yeah. But like, are you just doing the trade shows?
Just trade shows.
Yeah.
State fairs, like crazy shows that people think you're never going to sell a $30,000 gazebo at these shows, but there'd be 2 million people coming through these gates in 20 days. Heat was crazy. Like the abuse you'd get from these people. You $30,000. Like,
are you English?
Yeah. Do you know Harry Styles? Are you related to Prince Charles? All this crap. Like the amount of abuse you'd get, but we knew it was going to pay off. We knew it was coming. Because
Why did you know though? Like,
because we worked too hard, and we knew it worked in the UK, and there was like 6 companies doing the same thing in England. So we knew that we could make it work, and bit by bit we saw it was working. Referrals were big. Like people would be like, oh my God, these English guys are so good. Service was great. Salesmanship was great. The quality of the product was great. So we knew we stick to those values, we're going to be good.
So how does like the operations like grow? Because at the moment when you first get there year 1, you're building it in the garden.
Doing everything ourselves for the first few years. And then we basically got spotted by this guy on a TV show on CNBC. The most similar show in the UK would be Dragon's Den. So he's like a host on that.
A big show.
Yeah. So it's Shark Tank and The Profit over in the US, it's called. And these big billionaire investors. And he saw us. And I watched his show, big fan of his show. We met him. He said, I love you guys. He said, you can just tell when somebody's got a good work ethic. And I was like, okay. And he said, I'm going to have the production crew call you. We'll set something up. And I was like, okay. Didn't really think too much of it.
At this point, year 5?
Yeah, year 4.
Year 4
at this point.
Okay, cool. Is this where it starts like ticking over then?
Yeah, because we've got like 3 guys working with us, but we're still doing all the builds, all the sales, all the installations ourselves. And he's like, so he came over as film crew. We did the show, and he basically said, look, you can keep holding on to this money, but the best thing you need to do is invest in people and specialists to do what you need to go out and sell, Damion. You can't be in a workshop 12 hours a day building. You're not a carpenter. You're a salesman. Get out of the damn workshop and get carpenters in here. So We did, and it was on primetime TV. It was like an hour documentary on our business, which was huge. And then
primetime TV in America is
big,
different level as well, isn't it?
Big stuff. And then the next year we did 2 million. The next year after that, 4.5 million. Things were flying, absolutely flying. Then COVID hits, and we were like,
so this is back in 2019?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So obviously getting to that sort of 4-5 million pound revenue stage, there must have been quite a big jump in terms of like your skill sets and everything that you were doing. So tell us a bit more about how you both developed, because like you and your partner at the time obviously have started in a workshop, right?
Yeah, we started in a small workshop in a terrible house, and then year 6 it was kind of, we've got all this money in the bank because we're tight, because we know we've got to protect our money because we came from nothing. We're working our asses off to build it all, eating cereal for years. So we're like, look, we've got a few $100,000 in the bank. Let's go and get our own houses, not out of that business, but let's go and rent our own places. Let's go and get a big workshop. So we went from like a 3,000 square foot workshop to a 20,000 square foot workshop. We bought, with this billionaire guy, he invested 150 grand of tools. So we had the best equipment you could get.
So he bought into the business.
Yeah.
What stake did he get for the 150 Gs?
12%.
12%.
And normally these guys are getting 50%, 60%. But he's like, I invest in people, and I'm investing in you boys, basically. And we were like, okay, amazing. So
sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's that must have been quite surreal though, considering you were watching him on TV.
Yeah.
And then he's come to you and given you investment.
It was crazy. And I mean, to make a gazebo would take us 2 weeks normally. But with his tools and everything that he put in, we could make the same thing in 3 days.
Why 150 Gs out of like curiosity? Like in the UK, obviously, I know you've got like the SEIS scheme, which would make sense for 150, but
I think it was the tools. I think that was the cost, because he knew I'm not just going to give these young Brits a load of money because they might just piss off back to England and just take $1 million or whatever. And he was like, what do you guys actually need? And we were like, I don't know, with people, I guess, and these right tools. So he was basically saying, I'm going to buy all the tools you need. You need to get a new premises to start manufacturing these things with the right, male and female toilets and the right electrical, because we didn't have any of that. It was like
cowboys,
proper cowboys. Yeah. Like
no health and safety,
no toilets, no air conditioning. It was like 120 degrees in our workshop.
Sweating it out. You boys stank.
We were stinky for a long time, but we knew that we were so like humble, because all the time, like we would drive to Texas like 32 hours straight, then build the gazebo and then drive straight back and go and make the other one. So we got to that point. Tools were good. Workshop was good. Manufacturing was good. 12 guys making these gazebos. Everything was superb. COVID hits, and it's like trade show after trade show calling us. No trade show.
How are you and your friend in that moment? Because you started off as friends, right? And
yeah.
Usually when you're friends and you become business partners, things can get sour.
Got really tense a lot of times, because your lives are on the line and we've done everything together. It's not like you're a carpenter, I'm a salesman like we were in England. We lived in different places and everything. This was, we live, sleep, work, everything together, driving the trucks. Like you are next to each other, side by side. And then when COVID hits and all these trade shows are cancelling us and we've spent all this money on all the tools, we can't sell without a trade show. And then the next trade show cancelled, the next trade show. So I was making calls, trying to set up meetings, trying to get referrals. And a lot of these clients were like, we don't want to spend 30 grand on a gazebo at the moment because we don't know what the hell's going on with the world. Like, there's people dying, can't go on holiday, can't go to trade shows. And my angle was, yeah, but this is an outdoor gazebo where if you can't go on holiday at the moment, this is bringing the holiday almost to your house because you've got a hot tub in there. It's like an outdoor movie room. Your kids can go out there. Thankfully, people were getting that. And I was like, I'm not giving up. There's no way I'm giving up.
Where's your head at in this moment? Because it must be panic stations, right? Because like the revenue model is so dependent on trade shows.
There was a lot. And my business partner's girlfriend was pregnant, and so was mine. Oh, so we got girlfriends, wives at that point. Both British, actually, not American. So they were pregnant, COVID hit, business is going down. But
same time as well.
Same time.
There's a lot going on.
But I was like, we're not giving up because this product is so good. This will actually help people. So we thought, let's flip it and let's make outdoor offices because everybody needs to work. Nobody can go to their office.
So you pivoted in that moment to the outdoor offices.
Smart
Who came up with that?
We both did. We were like, what's the solution? And we were like, home offices. So we started making these home offices. And then eventually, like 6 months down the line, the first trade show opened. And we were like, fantastic. So we went there, sold a few, went to the next one, and this is where it gets brutal. So we were standing there. It's like a gazebo, probably the size of this room, and there's people walking past, thousands of people, and you're kind of reeling them in. Come and check out the gazebo, blah, blah, blah. And there's some kid, he must be 19. He stands probably 20 feet away from us, backpack out, balaclava on. I said to my mate, I was like, what the fuck? What is going on here?
Yeah, this is weird.
This is getting weird.
Strange.
And then you see him piecing this thing together. I was like, what the hell is he doing? My mate's like a rugby player. It's like, not afraid of anything. He was gone. I was like, Misky, his name was. I was like, Misky, where the fuck are you going? He was like, I'm gone. And I was like, I didn't really understand what was going on. Then this guy pieced it all together. AK-47.
Oh my God, mate. Are you fucking serious?
Proper assault rifle. And we were at, it was called the Gilroy Garlic Festival. So it's like everything garlic, like garlic fries, garlic chocolate. But it's near
bit of a random trade.
No, it's a weird one, but it's
bit
like
of a random one.
But it's in it's near Santa Barbara, so it's a really exclusive part of California.
Oh, okay.
So people go because garlic is grown there, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why it's like a garlic capital of the world. So everything was kind of cool and quirky.
And you're just like hammering every trade show possible. Yeah. So like it doesn't matter if it's garlic or
doesn't
garden
matter.
furniture. We're doing it.
If there's people there, we're there. We're going.
Right, yeah.
So this kid starts piecing this thing together, and then you've got these big white tents over there of like families and everything eating their lunch and garlic or whatever they're doing. And then you see him just picks the gun up like this.
How far away are you?
At this point, probably 10 feet.
Mate, your life must have just flashed.
You're 10
I still
feet
didn't get
away.
it. I still didn't get what he was doing. I was like, is this part of like a show or something? Like, what is going on? And then you just hear it bang, 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 like that. And then you see him, and then all these, like, everyone's on the floor, everyone's screaming, like everybody's running everywhere. Then he runs around the corner just like this way over here. Everything stops.
What are you doing? How do you feel in that moment?
There's all these kids running past us, and I'm like, get in the fucking gazebo, because we had like cabinets and these big sofas. And like a desk like this. I was just like, get under here, get under here. It was all these like cheerleader kids. So they're obviously putting on like a display or something. Must be 10 to 12 years old, these girls. And I was like, just get in here. Obviously everybody was ducking down, and then it went silent, and everyone was like screaming and running. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck was that? And then you hear it again, bang, 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 like this. And then I went around behind the gazebo. Fucking, honestly, horrific. 3-year-old boy, dead.
Oh my God.
18-year-old college kid, dead. There was another guy over here, and it was like you see in the films of like blood just like squirting out.
And you can see this. Like
everything. And I was just like, this is fucking horrific. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with myself right now. And then you see all these like, the police just like running and running and running. And then everyone, I was like, get down. So everyone was like getting down. And then bang, this bullet just kills this kid. They just shoot him straight in the head. And I was just like, this is mental. This is literally mental. And I'm seeing it all.
Mental.
And then my wife's calling me. I can feel my phone like vibrating like crazy. And she's calling me, and I'm trying to hang up, because obviously all these police are running around. I'm like, I don't want to get shot. I don't want to be like them thinking it's me or something.
Panic stations.
Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, they killed him.
What the police shot him?
Police shot him straight in the head.
What was it? Just some like kid or something?
19-year-old white kid, lives at home. No reason to do any of this stuff. Like,
what even is that?
I don't even know.
Nuts.
So my wife was like. And well, I was still at this trade show, and then I was sort of like legged it. I was like, I have to get out of here. And I got to my car, and I was like, fuck, my car keys are in the gazebo still. And we sold like 3 or 4 gazebos at that event, and I was like, all the order forms are in there. That's my future, because I need these things, because we need to build these gazebos. That was still in my mind at this moment.
Yeah, I need the orders.
Got clients. I told my wife that afterwards, and she was like, "You're fucking crazy." And I was like, "No, these are my paying clients." Plus,
get these deals. Got to get the deals over the line, mate. It doesn't matter.
It was tough. It was tough, but yeah.
I would have thought. I feel like I would have been the exact same. Like, deals on the table, mate.
So I ran back.
Yeah.
So I went back to the gazebo because I was like, I need to get my bag, and then nobody was there apart from, and it was like a proper movie scene. Like, there was dead people on the floor. There was police everywhere. There was people screaming. And I was just like, I need to get out of here. So I just grabbed my bag, went to my car, and they were like, no, it's a crime scene. You can't leave. And I was like, just let me go, blah, blah. And I just managed to get out, managed to drive out the car park, went home.
Tell us about that drive. Like, where's your head at? Like,
do you want to know the craziest thing?
Go on.
So that morning I booked in, what do we used to call it over there? So it's like a measure up. Like, because some people would come to these shows, I don't know if this would fit into my garden, blah, blah, blah. So I had one booked in at 6 o'clock and I lived about 2 hours from there and I left at about 5. So on the way home to my wife to explain what the hell just gone on, even though I've told her on the phone, I went to this client's house.
Gotta get a bag, mate.
I was like, I've got to do it because it was so tense for 8 months.
Yeah.
Baby's on the way, business going downhill, COVID is there. And I was like so filled with adrenaline, it didn't even sink in at this point. I was just like, I'm going to his house. And I said, oh, did you got there? And he was like, did you hear about that? And I was like, yeah, I was there. And it didn't really sink in. So I measured up, he did the deal, which was great. So, and then I went home and it was on every TV station, everywhere. And then my wife said to me, I've booked the flights, we're done.
What's it done in America?
Done. She said, because we had obviously daughters. And she was like, I'm not doing this. She said, I'm not bringing up my kids in a place where that can happen in the schools at a bloody garlic show. I know a garlic show sounds fun, but if it can happen at a garlic show and at the schools and everything else. And she was like, you make a decision because I'm not staying here. And I had this business now thriving, primetime TV, COVID's kind of dying off a little bit. Things are opening back up. And I was like, do I do what this, and it all kind of goes back to my own parenting thing. Obviously as a kid, when my mum had left, it's like, I can't leave my kids and my wife for money. You know, if it was another man or whatever for my mum or money, it's the same thing, isn't it? You can't leave your family. So I was just like, okay, let's go.
So you left America and went to UK?
Yeah. So we sold all the tools.
How did that conversation go down with your business partner? Because
he was in the same situation.
Oh, really?
His missus was there, pregnant, and she was the same. She was like, I'm not doing this. Because my wife and his loved the UK. They were there longer than they wanted to be because we always planned to come back, but it went so well. We were like, no, we'll stay. We'll 100% stay because it's going well. And that was, so we were kind of 7 or 8 years in at that point, like at that pivotal point of where now we can really progress business-wise. We can take this to crazy levels. This billionaire contact we've got, an investor, he can take this to worldwide. He can help us mass market it. But we just sat down like we are now, me and my business partner, and we just like, what's the point? Like, we can't risk our families because he comes from a similar background to me as well. And he was like, let's just go back to the UK. So we sold all the tools.
Mate, obviously that's a huge decision after 7 years of grafting and struggling, to be fair, in the initial stages.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the incident is so massive. Like, it's a huge incident. Like, how does that conversation go? Because, like, I can imagine it was a bit more than us just, you just sitting down and being like, yeah, we can't do this anymore. There must have been a bit more to it.
Yes, because obviously, you'd left all the bad things in England that drove you to America. You've got to America. You've made money. You're a success. You're on national TV. And it's like anybody who's ever doubted me before, years gone by, or family stuff or whatever, it's like, do you know what? I've proved you all wrong. I've worked my ass off, and this is where I've got to. And to kind of leave all of that with the thought of going back to the UK, because I never thought I was going back because we were doing well. And it was like the only reason we would go back is if the business didn't work, and it was working. So to have that conversation and to have to go back was pretty brutal because we couldn't do what we were doing and go back to the UK and do it because otherwise we'd have to face our old boss. And we didn't want to do that because we didn't want to cause any controversy. So
that must have been so deep.
It was bad. And we sent the girls back. So our wives went back to England while we spent the next 6 weeks selling every tool we had, tying up all the deals that we did. Because we obviously had clients that still wanted their gazebos and they paid a deposit. And it was like, we're not going to screw anybody. We're not going to run off with their money. So we carried on manufacturing. And I remember doing the last gazebo we did. It was the first install after the shooting where my business partner Simon was on the roof, and there was like these cedar shingles, like the wooden tiles. And he was on there with a pin gun, like nailing them in, like bang, 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 dropped straight down to the floor. And I was like, I'm fucked. I'm like, this has messed me up. Like, this
trauma,
is really, really traumatic. And it has screwed me. And I was just like, said, yeah, we do need to go back. So
how did the investor take it? Because obviously he's put in 150 G's. There's been something that no one could have accounted for, which is fucking more than reasonable in terms of like your reason to leave.
Yeah.
But obviously at the same time, like, probably a conflict of interest with him because he's like, I put this money in here.
You would think that, but he got to a point probably 6 months before that where he said, look, I don't even want my investment anymore and I don't want the money back. He was like, I've set you guys off, just run with it. And that's never happened with anybody he's ever invested in. And he was like, just love it. I just want you guys to just be successful. If you need any advice, call me. So kind of at that point, he wasn't even involved.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. There's not many people like that. He's made a lot of money. He's got a lot of investments in a lot of businesses. So he knew it wasn't going to change his bank balance by it being invested with us. Because we were like a luxury gazebo company that if you sell a few $1 million worth of them a year, you probably net in 300-400 grand profit. By the time he gets his 12, but like, what is that to him?
Nothing,
30-40 grand. It's like, what's the point? Peanuts, he might as well just get on with it. So it was good with him, and it was sad for a lot of our clients and obviously our employees. It was brutal because we got this workshop, but we just couldn't do it. We couldn't do it mentally, and we'd made that decision that our family has to come first, which goes back to obviously where, you know, I came from my childhood. That is just important to look after my wife and kids. So we returned back to the UK.
And what was the plan when you got back?
No idea.
Have you got a bit of cash behind you at this
point?
A little bit. Yeah, enough to like tie you over.
Yeah.
For a few months. And
yeah, enough to, you know, could rent a nice house for a little bit and find a job and be all right for a year. I knew I had a year worth of money, basically.
You always need that runway, don't you?
Yeah.
Like 6 to 12 months.
I think it's important because if a recession comes or if COVID-2 hits or, you know, something happens, it's always good to have a bit of a buffer. So we did have that, thankfully.
Did your friend come back as well, obviously? So
yeah.
Were you both going to go into business together when you come back, or was that sort of the end of that road?
It's the end of the road.
Was there a conversation where you both had where it was like, we can't work together anymore? Or
yeah, it was just like, and he moved back to Northampton and I moved to Oxfordshire, like near here. So
why Oxfordshire? Just out of...
So my wife's mum is from Berkshire. So I wanted to be close enough, but not too close to the mother-in-law. So it's kind of like,
that's fair.
Yeah, but she's lovely. I've got a lot of time for her. She's a lovely lady. But it was kind of like, don't want to go back to Devon and Cornwall because obviously my mum's there, my dad's there. I've gone away. I've done all of this. I don't need to go back to that again. So it was kind of like a new start somewhere in the centre of England, not necessarily London because I don't really like the city too much. I'm not really a city person. Obviously, like you guys, like being coastal. It's kind of like, I don't really like all the city. It's good for a weekend or whatever, but not to live. So I was like, Oxfordshire countryside, that might be nice. Gives us a bit of time to kind of bring up the kids and figure out what I'm going to do. So it literally sat there on a computer. It was like, I don't even know what the website, Indeed, or what is it called? The job site?
Yeah, Indeed.
And I was like, fuck, I've not done this in
whatever. So you went to go get a job?
Yeah.
Oh, that's shit, innit? Like,
like,
after all that, to then just be like, I've got to go and get a job, like... And looking on Indeed, where's your head at in that moment?
I was like, I've been on TV, multi-million-dollar company, celebrity clients, mega billionaire investor, to sat in a room with my wife downstairs with the kids downstairs thinking, fuck, like...
Mate, I had to look for a job at one point after like working for myself, you know, since I was like left university and dropped out. And that moment when I was like looking for a job, I was like, this is terrible.
And looking at the
this is shit. Yeah. Like you're looking at the wage.
That's exactly what I was doing.
And like it's like 21 to 25 or 25 to 30 for like a standard sales role. Yeah. And you're like, that is just like, that is not appealing whatsoever.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not knocking it.
No, exactly.
You've got to get cash in.
Yeah.
And it's all commission focused. But like when you actually look at it, and you're thinking all that time for that, like, it's just not worth it.
No, it's not. And we were on a good salary. I mean, we were on nothing for the first few years. Then it got to a point we were probably on $8,000 to $10,000 a month we were paying ourselves, and all
good money.
The cars we had were paid by the business because it was a business expense. Houses were cheap over there. Like you could get a big house for 300 grand. Like, I'm talking big. Like over here, it'd be 4 or 5 million at least for what you can get over there.
For 300 grand?
Yeah.
Madness.
The places you can get in Texas and things, it's just like acres, pools. It's just ridiculous what you can get. So coming back over here with expensive rent, no job. And I was looking at these jobs and it was like sales jobs, or I was looking at like, I can't even remember, like supermarket stuff. And I was like, no way. I was like, no. And again, I'm not knocking it. No way. You know, if people need to, but I was like, I've got a wife, kids. I'm 38 now. So I was 36 when I came back. I'd made it, but now I've gone back to nothing.
Mate, it's like a temperature gauge. Once that temperature gauge is set up there, you like everything below it, it seems just like not worth it.
It does. And I was like, I'd rather not do something. But I was like, you can't do that if you've got kids. You cannot do that. So I was looking for all these jobs. Nothing appealed to me. And then I found self-employed real estate company looking for social media or marketers or entrepreneurs. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Self-employed, because that's big in the US. But over here, it doesn't exist. So I called the director. We had a great chat, and going back, he's a big Grant Cardone fan.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, and Gary Vee and all these other like Americans basically, and Australians. Nothing English. And he was like, "Where have you been? What have you done?" I told him the story, and he was like, "That's incredible. Let's have a Zoom now." So we got onto the Zoom, and then I was with them. That business, it's Fine & Country, kind of like a top end real estate brand, for 18 months, and then after the first 4 or 5 months of knocking on doors and social media every single day, I was there within the top 3 guys every single month on month.
So how does the self-employed work? Is it literally like you finding your own deals, getting a commission off it, and then, funneling it through their business to a certain degree?
Yeah, basically you want a listing, you go and get it. Nothing gets handed to you.
Door knocking.
Old
school, mate.
Love it.
One of our mates does that at the moment. Well, 2 of them. One of them does it with Tyrone Ash, I think.
Yeah.
And I just rate it because it's just like it's a tough job to be banging on doors.
And they were saying to me, "Do you mind knocking on doors? Do you mind doing social media?" And I was like, if we're used to driving 30 hours and building in 120-degree heat and getting shot at, basically, you're telling me to provide for my family, I've got to go knock on some doors and say hello to people and do a bit of social media every day. I was like, yeah, of course I can. And I don't have to be covered in dust and oil and, just around like loads of guys smoking all the time, all these builders and all this stuff. And like being able to be at home with my family, I was like, I'll 100% do it.
It's a no-brainer.
You must have had some funny stories for door knocking though.
It was a good opener. Yeah. It was a good opener. And I think being able to relate to people about how the US is so different to the UK and their marketing and the real estate model over there. And because I'd hustled basically for 3 or 4 years non-stop to get to that point with my old business and then started to propel, people are hardworking. And it's if you've got a high street agent who's going to get paid regardless, and they've got 50 listings, and whether your house sells, they don't give a shit really because they're going to get paid anyway. But me, I've got kids to support, a wife to support. I only get paid once the house sells. I'm in your corner, and I'm like, I don't mean this in an egotistical way or arrogant, but it's like, I think you should have somebody like me selling your house because I'm an animal. Like whether it comes to the marketing side of it, the negotiation side of it, if I get paid when it sells, you want me, and I would want me in your corner because I'm not going to stop until it sells. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to get you the best price. I'm used to negotiating. I'm used to marketing. And then, month on month for probably 12 out of 18 months, I was their top guy.
Yeah, I rate it, mate. I do. I completely understand what you're saying in terms of wanting someone like that in your corner.
Yeah.
And obviously with that, it's like you need people like that in your business as well.
Yep, for sure.
Obviously, when you are door knocking, my pal tells me about some stories of people getting a bit moody about it.
Yeah.
Have you got any in particular?
Yeah, I've had loads of people get off my land or piss off, or this is so unprofessional, or I've had the husband call me and say, you scared the life out of my wife, blah, blah, blah. Like, how dare you do this? But funny enough, some of those people have come back to me and said, I hear from you more than my own agent, and you don't even have my house. And that's my response is, imagine what I'm going to be like when I've got your house. They're like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah. I said, look, and I told my first few listings about the whole journey that I've been on. And I said, I've got a massive point to prove here. I need to sell your house. That's just good for you as the seller, but it's good. I've got a reputation to build. I've got to start from scratch. I've got a family to support. And I was like, I'm sure every agent in here is coming to you with 20 years experience and this and this and this, but I've got a massive point to prove and I'm going to prove it. And the only way I can do that is by being successful and selling your house. And I was like, my first one, I said, just take a chance on me. It's going to cost you nothing, but I'm going to sell your house.
What's it feel like having to go back to ground zero and go again?
I've done it. I've done it before. And now the goalposts have changed because I've got kids. I've got a wife. And my wife is supporting the kids at home, so I've got to support all of them.
Yeah, it's not just your life you're supporting now, it's the family.
I've got 3 daughters.
Oh, wow.
So I've got 3 daughters and a wife to support. So there's no plan B. There is no excuse. You cannot fail. Don't even think about it, because if you've got to provide for that family, you are going to succeed. You have to succeed.
You've burnt the boats, haven't you?
Otherwise you're screwed. And I've set them up with this life. But my wife was very like humble. We had nothing when we first met anyway, so she's good. But I just said, look, there's no option for me to fail. I'm going to absolutely smash this. I'm going to kill it. I'm absolutely going to kill it. So I did, and I became their top like sales guy, top exchanges, top earner.
What are you earning at that point then?
So the first 6 months I had nothing. So I was like, this is tough. Then my first year, I cashed 150 grand.
Why do you reckon it took up to 6 months to get a few deals over the line? What is it?
I wasn't known. I had no proof. I had no credibility. Because obviously I'm from Plymouth. I couldn't just go to Oxford and be like, oh, Uncle Jim, let me sell your house, or my neighbour. I didn't know anybody. So it was kind of, I had to start from scratch. And obviously I got a couple of listings, but it took a little bit of time for them to go through.
What does starting from scratch look like? Is it like banging on doors all day, every day? Or is it like on the phones? Like obviously I don't really have any background other than like what my friends have told me with real estate. But like, what does that process of 6 months look like? Because 6 months is a stint to not earn any cash. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I was very like regimented. So I'd spend 3 hours a day door knocking. I'd spend 2 hours a day doing social media on every platform: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. And I basically made a rule that day: I have to do social media every single day. And you can go back to my social media and you can check every day since I've been in the UK. I've done social media, something regarding real estate.
What was the social media approach though back then?
Well, I didn't know anything. This is the funny thing. So I didn't know anything about real estate. So I paid a guy, content creator, to create me these articles on real estate. So I could either post them as an article or set up a camera, tripod, and start giving people some free content on what does the conveyancing process look like? What are top 10 tips to sell in your house? And everyone was like, oh, this guy's giving out free content. This is great. But between me and you at the time, I was reading this stuff and teaching myself. Like, I remember reading these videos and being like, oh, that's interesting. Because I'm reading it and like reading it off of the screen and thinking, that's what conveyancing is. That's what a chain is.
Fake it till you make it, mate.
Basically, honestly, what's that saying? It's like, power perceived is power achieved.
Nice.
So it's like, and that's what I learned over in the US. And then I spent 6 hours a day watching Americans. So people like Gary Vee, Ryan Serhant. I bored my wife with like $1 million listing and everything. I just said, look, we need to watch it because I need to remember what the Americans do whilst I'm in the UK. I don't want to get complacent. And then like the coaches in Australia, like Tom Panos, very good coach. So I spent the majority of my working day watching the top real estate agents in the world.
So this is for 6 months?
6 months, non-stop, and watching it and re-watching it and forcing it into myself that you have to do social media every single day. So it took me 6 months to get going. And then that first year, 150K from nothing. And I was like, okay, I can do this.
I'm back in the game.
I'm back. And I was like, okay,
That's
awesome.
all it takes is that little spark and then like
and
the
that
deals
drive.
to roll over and roll over.
And then once I had my first listings and sales, I was like, right, I've got proof. I've got proof of concept now. So if I walk into any door, it's like
case studies.
This house was on for 5 million. It couldn't sell. 5 agents. I sold it for 5.65. This one I put on at 3 million, sold it for 3.5. And it was like, I'm not giving these houses away. I'm selling them for good money because I know how to negotiate. And the more I sell it for, the more money I'm going to get, which is good for the client. Because most agents are like, I want to give it away. I want to sell it. Commission breath. And I'm like, no, I want to sell this for as much money because I know if I smash it with your house, you're going to tell your neighbors, your friends and family. So it was always client first, not me first. And that's what I picked up from the US. So yeah, was killing it with Fine & Country. And then towards the end of it, I was like, I'm just restricted to Oxfordshire and I'm getting people in Cornwall, Cambridge, Manchester calling me, can you sell my £10 million house? Can you sell my £20 million house? And I was like, shit, where has this come from? Because I was selling houses probably from 750K to 5 million. That was my range with the previous company. And I was having to say no to these big mansions because it was outside of my license, because it was just Oxfordshire only. And then I met my business partner, Tyler, and he was like, look, I've been thinking about setting up this real estate company. You're the only guy I want to go to partner with. Let's do it. And I was like, within 2 minutes, I was like, let's do it. So 100%.
Where did you meet him to?
In Henley on Thames. We sat down in a restaurant And he was just like, look, this is what I want to do, and I want you to be a part of it. So I know it's a big risk, but I've been following you. I know you're good at what you're doing. He was like, I want you to be part of it. And I was like, let's do it.
Oh, so you basically knew each other through socials?
Yeah.
You met through socials as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah.
But the twist is, so Sean, who was the director of Fine & Country that I met originally, who really liked entrepreneurs, all that kind of stuff, is his son.
Oh.
I see.
Yeah, so it was a big twist. Big twist.
How did Sean take you and his son partnering?
He completely supported it, and he said to me, I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
He was like, I knew it from day one, and I was like, that's awesome. But I've always like remained very hardworking. Even like yesterday, I was door knocking yesterday. I'll still do it, and I'll still do social media every single day. We've got listings 5, 10, 20, 30 million, like some big houses. So we decided that day to start this new business, Luxury Property Partners, and it was like, okay, started in America, did it. Started back here, did it. I can do it again, but on my own terms and be my own businessman, which is great. So
how did the partnership work? What was the agreement between the both of you?
So we basically split the equity between myself, him, and his sister is Summer Newman. Summer and Matt have got like one of the biggest YouTube property channels.
I watch it.
Yeah, Luxury Home Show. Yeah, so
I told you he loves it, mate.
I watch it. I watch them, and I watch all Tyler's content. To be fair,
yeah,
I've actually asked him to come on here. So Tyler, come on the podcast, bro.
I'll get him on.
Sound.
So Tyler's like a very reputable young developer. He's 25, I think, and he's sort of smashing it. And he follows, as I said, like the Grant Cardone stuff, and he reads a lot, and he does a lot of development courses. So he's very good in his field. Summer and Matt are kind of content creators for YouTube, so they're very good in their field, and me, sales, basically. So like what this billionaire guy told us in America, have people that are good at certain things, don't all try and do. So the mix is perfect.
Nice balance in there.
Yeah, lovely balance. So we started the business.
How do you feel in that moment, obviously starting the new business? Because like, it's fair to say you've had some trials and tribulations, right? You've had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
And like, you've just got your foot in the door with like smashing it again with like commission sales. So like going into like a new business again and starting back at ground zero, like how does that feel in the moment? Like how does your missus take it as well? Like I know she's very supportive from what you've said today, but do you know what I mean? Like what are those conversations and how do they go down?
Well, I sat down with her and I said, I told you I'd never start my own business again. She was like, oh, here we go. And I was like, but we're going to start. And she was like really supportive. And I was like, look, I know, almost like the gazebos, doing it from England to America. I knew that concept worked, and I knew I was good at what I'm doing in the UK with real estate. But now I've got that challenge of doing it under a completely new brand. So before I wasn't known, then I became known. Now I'm known, but with a brand that's not known. So it's like, it's a great, and I love these challenges. I think it's awesome. I think you got a massive point to prove. I want to prove everybody wrong. So it's like, we start this business, we get a couple of listings. And then the big bombshell comes, the big bombshell. So
it's going well.
Yeah, it's going well.
Yeah.
And obviously we're 7 months into it now.
Yeah.
So like good listings. We've got a team now of like 8 or 9, which is great.
And the USP is like high value
million
properties.
Plus.
Yeah.
million plus, 2.5%, non-negotiable. Like that's it.
Firm with it.
Just firm with it, because we have to be, because so many people claim to be luxury agents, but you'll still see them have a £300,000 house on their books. And it's like, got nothing against that. But I think the UK needs, if you're a luxury agent, stick to luxury. So we start doing well, move into a bigger house with my wife and kids, like in Henley, which is really nice. And then the phone rings and I'm like, okay, don't recognize this number. Plymouth. Oh shit, maybe it's my mum. Because my mum and my wife, they were speaking quite a lot on FaceTime. So they started to like regain that relationship. I was speaking to my mum probably every 2 or 3 months for the last few years. So it was like picking back up, told her I'm back in the UK, but then obviously busy with the real estate side of it. So not finding enough time to go down to Plymouth. And I get the call, Damion, it's Jade. She's like a family, like distant, like, you know, the kind of people you call cousin, but they're not really cousins. Yeah. So she calls me and she said, you know, I got some really bad news. And I was like, okay. And there's no reason for her to give me, like, maybe her dad had passed away or something, because I was very close to her dad. And I was like, what's happened? She was like, oh, it's your mum. I was like, what the hell are you calling me for about my mum? I was like, what's going on? She said, look, I don't like, and she wouldn't speak. And then she started crying. I was like, Jade, what the hell is going on? She said, I'm really, really sorry, Damion, but your mum, she died. And I was like, are you kidding? I was like, when? What? And I didn't even know what to say. And she was like a week ago, she died, but nobody knew because she didn't want any of you to know. And I was like, well, what happened? And she said, well, the long and short of it is she went to the doctor like 8 weeks ago, like a bad cough or whatever, and they drained some fluid, said that she had like a chest infection, may have thought it was COVID because obviously still COVID going on. And then they couldn't shift it, went to the doctors, and apparently he was like, you need to get your bags and go to a hospice. Like, it's no good. And then fast forward 3 weeks and she passed away. And I didn't know.
Mate, that is insane.
Yeah. And I was like, I was in the garden and my wife was in the kitchen with my mother-in-law and my kids, like they were cooking something. And then my wife was like, come on, it's dinner time. And I was like, fuck no. She was like, what's going on? I was just like this. I never do that. I don't know why I did that. And she was like, I could see her say to her mum, something's wrong. And I've got no real family or anything because I've left it all. So, you know, still speak to my mum. It's obviously still slightly awkward because of her whole life and everything. And then, yeah, she passed away. And I was just like, fuck.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what to think. I don't even know what to say. I was like, everything, like in America, everything got to this great point. And it was like, okay, I'm, you know, I've got this vision of where I want to be. And then, yeah, to get that phone call. So I went down to Plymouth immediately, like just got in the car, just went down. I said to my wife, like, I'll be back in a couple of days. I just need to figure out what the hell's going on. And then met Jade and then found out that she did pass away and how she passed away, but nobody knew. And obviously, my only relative of my mum still alive is my gran, which is her mum. So I said to Jade, does she know? She said, no. She's like, you have to tell her. I was like, oh my God. So I was like grieving for my mum, like down in Plymouth again, which I've not been to for years, seeing all this stuff that reminds me of like my upbringing and everything. And then
must have been just like a fucking flashback.
It was
just like
crazy because I'm like grown up now. I'm driving down there, my Range Rover SVR, like I'm cool. I'm like feeling like a, you know, whatever. Like I'm going back to Plymouth to like not stick my fingers up, but be like, do you know what? I came from this, like lived in a council house until I was like 12 with my mum, and then moved into a different house. And then, so I kind of like not made it, but I've made something of myself, you know, and I'm going back to Plymouth to kind of maybe see people and discuss what's happened over the years, but it wasn't. It was obviously all about my mum, and I had to go and sit down with my gran. She's the only other person that calls me Dame. She's like, oh my God. So I went in and I had to sit her down.
How long had it been since you'd seen your gran?
I would come back every couple of years and I'd always go and see her because she's funny lady. Really like old school. Let's just say that, brutal old school from Plymouth, who's never really been out. I'll keep it that to keep it politically correct. I get the gist. But funny and just kind of harmless. Yeah. But my granddad died like 30 years ago, so she's always been on her own, but just lovely lady. So I had to sit down with her and I said, look, I've got to tell you something terrible. And she's like, your mum's not died, has she? Just joking around. And I was like, oh my God. I said, yeah. And then she was kind of like a bit calm with it. And then, so I spent a couple of days down there and went back up. And then the funeral and everything was organised by my mum's partner at the time, who I'd never met, never spoken to. She kept it all very quiet. So then the funeral happened and I was like, Did you speak to your dad at this point? No. So I haven't spoken to my dad. So I've tried for the last 10 years. Nothing. No interest. Like even told family members, don't tell Damion not to contact me, or because I'd met my mum. So craziness. So I had to obviously drive back down to Plymouth for the funeral, and still like didn't really know what the hell was going on at this point, and then turn up to the funeral and seeing kind of cousins and aunties and people that I've not seen since I was a kid, because obviously when my mum left I kind of lost that side of the family, or a good chunk of it anyway, and then going to America and Northampton and, you know, being away from everything, I'd sort of purposely shut off from everything and forgotten a lot of my childhood. Like my wife talks about like when she's at primary school as a kid, and I was like secondary, I was like, I don't remember any of it. For some reason I've shut it all off. Yeah. Obviously because there's so much chaos. And then went to the funeral. I was very strong, sort of hugging everybody, like catching up with them all. And then I remember stood there in the car park with my wife, and then you could see the car, the hearse, is it called? Yeah. Coming around the corner. Game over. I was gone. I was like the noise that came out of me. I never heard anything like that before. It's just like
raw emotion.
It was like, is it anger? Is it upset? Is it like like, what is it? Like, what is this emotion? And then I remember just sitting in there, and the person told me to, like, her partner's family on the right hand side. I was on the left hand side. I'm her only child, so I was sat on the left, and they brought the bloody coffin in straight in front of me, like as close as I am to you. I'm sat there on the front row just looking at this coffin, and I'm just like, fucking, my wife's next to me. I'm just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing for 45 minutes. I could not contain myself, and it was just horrible. And then the curtain goes around, and then the coffin goes off, and then it's obviously a crematorium kind of thing. So whatever happens there, I just got in the car, just sat there with my wife, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm thinking.
So much trauma.
Chaos. It's
so
just like,
much.
It's 38 years of everything that's ever gone on, and it's just like, I don't even know how to deal with this. But then got in the car. I'm quite tough, not like physically like fighting everybody, but I think I've toughened myself up over the years because of childhood, because of going to America, having to hustle, and then like we got 3 daughters, as I said. So driving back up, knowing, right, I've got my kids, I've got my business, I've got my clients, and I've got my wife to look after. My mum just passed away. Like, I'm not brushing it to one side, but it's time to kind of get focused, because again, there's no plan B, and I can't beat myself up about this. I can't ruin my life over this. I'm obviously like very upset about it, but it just gave me that drive. And I just think all of these things, they almost happen in order to make me more successful.
Yeah.
Because I have to provide for my family. I have to be a good dad. And I don't want, you know, when eventually I pass away or whatever, I just want my kids to be like, do you know what? My dad was fucking cool.
He was ledge. Yeah.
He smashed it. Like, whatever happens, whenever like I go away, I just want them to always think he's a good dad. He's always working his ass off. I want my wife to think, oh God, I married a good guy. And I want my clients, everybody else around me to think, just, you know, he worked for it. And I think that's why I'm successful. And there's a lot of successful people out there kind of very flashy with it. And I'm not that way. I just prefer just to, I've got a nice car, but I don't show it. I don't show it to anybody. I just keep it kind of locked away, and I live very private life with my wife and my kids, kind of out in the country, keep myself to myself, because I've just been through so much shit. It's just like, focus on your kids, focus on the family that you do have, focus on your clients, and you'll be all right. And it's like all of those things that I've gone through, it sort of puts everything in perspective. And then I look at a lot of people now, and I'm just thinking, don't worry too much about the stuff that's going on, because it could be so much worse. And I know my story's bad, but there's people that have got weight. You see what's going on in like Turkey and Ukraine and all that kind of stuff, and you see kids and like cancer wards and all that sort of stuff. You'd be like, yeah, I've had it tough, but there's a lot of people out there worse. And it's like, I just want to do the right thing by my family, and I want to do the right thing by my clients. And as long as that's all right, I'm good. And I know I won't fail, because I've got it in me to not fail, basically.
Yeah, mate, I rate it. And that's, you know, there's a huge story.
There's a lot to tell.
Yeah. And like, I think the way you dealt with it, and, you know, it's only my perception, is how I would have liked to have dealt with it.
Yeah.
Like that emotion, you know, the crying, like that's trauma, like that has to come out. But then at the same time, you need to be the right man for the family.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to pull yourself together in that moment to, you know, propel the business for the family. So it makes complete sense. But I don't know about you, Cal, it's just a hell of a lot to be dealing with in that moment for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose the only way that you can deal with it is just to get up and get on with
Crack
it. I know
on,
it sounds like so easy sat here, and I haven't lived that life, but the only way you can do it is get on with it. And also, I suppose it probably helps having other people to get on with it with. So you've got your family, you've got your wife, and you're supporting them. So you've got them as a driving factor in the back of your mind, thinking like, I've got to support these guys, I've got all these clients.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you turned such a tragic situation in your life into like a propeller.
Yeah. What's the Tony Robbins quote? Like, what's like one of the worst things that happened to you, and how can you make that the best thing that ever happened to you?
Exactly.
And it is all just about turning negatives into positives, or somehow dealing with it and using it for drive.
Yep.
But yeah, mate, it's fucking loads to be dealing with.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative?
There isn't one. Yeah. Like,
what am I supposed to do about it? Like, do I just go and drink myself silly, or do I? It's like when you got to get up at 7 a.m, you got to get these 3 girls ready for school.
Yeah.
And then you got clients on your ass because you're charging big fees. They want you. Like, if they're phoning you at 10 o'clock at night, you've got to answer the phone. So it's like, you just get yourself busy and you're just always hustling, always looking after your clients, always looking after the family, and just no plan B. That's the best advice I could give. Just don't have a second option. Just be so driven and stay in your lane, and you'll make it work.
Yeah, like get busy with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, after, you know, all of that, do you just go straight back into the workplace and just sort of crack on then, I take it?
Just get on with it. It's the only thing I've ever known. It's like when my mum left originally, it's like, right, focus on school. Like when things happen in England, right, do this. And when COVID hit in America, it was like, right, find a solution. It's just like, I don't want to mope around, don't want to be depressed, don't want to be doing this. I mean, it does come out from time to, and it comes out at the stupidest time. Like when my kids are watching, what was this film the other day, Greatest Showman or something, and this woman started singing this song, and I was like, I don't even know what song it was, but it was a good song. And it got me, and I was like, oh, shit, I'm an emotional wreck still. It's sort of, it comes out at the weirdest of times. But I think the good thing about having 3 daughters is it's like really softened me up. And it's all like, they're very much daddy's girls. And my wife, like, got a great relationship. We have a lot of fun together and everything as a family. So it's just, I think without them, it might have been really different.
Yeah.
Like, because if I was a single guy, like, in America and all that stuff happened, I could have just gone chaotic in Vegas or whatever for months. So it could have been different. So I got a lot to thank my wife and kids for as well.
Yeah, they're anchors, aren't they?
Yeah. They are. And I don't even think I've started. I haven't even scratched the surface of the real estate market in the UK, because we're 7 months in and we've just taken on 9 agents now, and we're just kind of, we're ready to go. So I'm ready for that next big step.
So how long ago was the obviously the death of your mum?
Last year.
Yeah. So then that, you know, sort of kickstart with a business. Well, you'd already kickstarted the business, but you carry on cracking on with the business.
Yeah.
How does that sort of gain momentum? Because, you know, you've said that you got up to 8 members of staff in terms of, you know, internally. So how does that grow? And I guess how does the USP sort of develop from there?
So I think a lot of people have seen what we've done, and we wanted to almost perfect the business model first. So let's get some proof, let's get some sales, let's get some listings, let's get some nice videos. And then I did a bit of a social media drive, and so did Tyler, about, you know, would you want to be part of Luxury Property Partners? This is what we're doing. You know, the industry in America and Australia is so different, and the earnings can be so much more here. And then you've got model like Tara Nash, very similar model, where you as an agent get 50% of the fee, the business gets the other 50%. It's the same as us. So their models, you know, it's very, very similar. Lots of social media drive, and, you know, very proactive. They're out knocking doors. They're doing very similar stuff as well. So we had about 40, 50 Zoom calls with potential agents, and a lot of them are just, you just wouldn't have them.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't. And it's like, do we take on a lot of agents to really push the brand, or do we stick to what we want and having top 10 talent only?
What are you looking for in the agents then? Because like your market is so like high end.
Yep.
Are you looking for anything like specifically within those agents, or are you just looking for hungry, driven individuals that can sell?
You don't have to be an estate agent to be a good, because I wasn't. I think, you know, if you've got that ruthless nature of negotiation, to be comfortable on camera, to do social media, to give high levels of service, I think those are the important things. And a lot of it can be taught. So I know there's no real regulations or anything in the UK, but we train every other day, all of us, myself, Tyler, all the new agents, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes a Sunday. We're always on Zoom calls for about an hour and a half every morning. So we're training, we're listening to Gary Vee, we're listening to Ryan Serhant, we're listening to Josh Teslin and Tom Panos, all these top coaches as part of our training. So we're always learning, always evolving. So we say to people, you are very much self-employed, but we want you to learn, because there is so much room for growth in this country, in the real estate market, that, you know, people, they see my stuff and they're like, oh, he's obviously killing it, he's smashing it, he's listing 20 million. But I'm like, I haven't even started.
Tip of the iceberg, mate.
Yeah. I just see where we want to be. We want to be the number 1 brand in the UK, and we just won't stop until we get it.
So I guess that kind of brings us up to like full circle where you're at today.
Yeah.
And we've just touched on it, but what are the next steps for the business, and where do you want to take it other than number 1, obviously?
So I think I would like to have a good amount of agents, but they've all got to be of that certain, what's the word? I like the feel of the business at the moment. I like our Zoom calls. I like the relationships we've all got with each other. It's not dog eat dog. There's no bitchiness. Nobody's after like, you're in my patch. It's very open. And if you bring somebody to my listing, you're going to earn a quarter of my fee. So it's like, we want to look after everybody earning good money. So it would be nice to have a couple hundred agents, and it would be good to be known as, you know, we've got a luxury property to sell. Who do we call? Luxury Property Partners. That's why we put it in the name. So it's Luxury Property Partners. So it's just, if you've got a top end house, that's who you go to. So my vision and Tyler's vision is to be number one luxury real estate brand within the next 5 years. And there's no reason it can't happen. And I think competition's good. I like seeing Tyler and Ash. I like seeing Savills and Knight Frank, and I like how people are sort of up in their game, because most people be like, no, fuck that. That's taking business away from us. But I think there's such a gap in the market and the mindset so backward here that the client should be first. And if people like us and Tara and Ash and other agencies out there are doing all this social media marketing and spending money on it and putting their client first and trying to get more money on that house, that's a good thing.
You need competition, don't you? It's healthy. It's I mean, the best analogy is look at Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Like, they would never be as good as what they got to without each other.
Exactly. So I think it's the client deserves it, and this country deserves it. Because I'll always go back to, it's the most expensive thing anybody owns, probably, their house. And why go to the cheapest agent to do it? You need to pay. I mean, if you're paying more for the same service, that's a different thing. Like if you're paying me 2.5% just to take some pictures and stick it on Rightmove, you've got an argument for why that shouldn't happen. But if we're spending 10, 20, 30 grand on marketing a property, that justifies the fee. And if we're commission only, it justifies a bigger fee. So it's just about finding agents with that right mindset who are risk takers and who are entrepreneurs as well, because that's what's needed, not necessarily. I don't consider myself an estate agent, as weird as that sounds. Like, I don't want to be an estate agent because I know everybody gives me shit for it. They're like, you might as well be a bloody double glazing salesman, or you know, selling insurance, knocking on doors, or like in the US, knocking on doors selling solar panels.
Solar, yeah.
And it was
them
a
boys
nightmare.
Are cleaning up though, mate.
They do well.
They do like 30-40k a month
They
just
do.
for selling solar panels.
But I don't want that. I want to, like in the US, if you're a real estate agent, that's a good business.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen.
You don't want the stigma.
No.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Why do you think there is that stigma in the UK with it?
I think historically estate agents have not been the most trusted of people, and I think
why is that as well? Like, that's really strange, because I've just recently bought a house with my girlfriend, and I actually struggled to trust the agent that sold it, and also when we were trying to buy the ones previous to that, instantly in my head I was thinking,
who is it?
I don't trust it. I ain't name dropping, but there's reasons as well I don't trust them. They did lie, but I just think that like they're just in it for themselves. They don't really care. And I also just thought like he contradicted himself a couple of times.
They try to do you dirty, mate.
Yeah, they did. They tried to do me dirty. They didn't tell me that there was an issue with like solar panels on a roof, and he didn't tell me that the roof was leased to a solar panel company. He told me that we would have owned the roof and we wanted to do like a big project to take the roof off, go up, do a loft conversion.
Right.
He didn't tell me until it went to solicitors, and solicitor told me. I was like, what?
How nuts is that?
I think that's where part of it's broken, but also certain agents, they'll get paid just to list a house. So they get a £500 bonus. So they'll go in and overvalue a house to get the client excited. Like if you go in there and say someone's house is worth £1 million, but I go in and say, actually, it's worth 600 grand. You're going to choose the £1 million one. They know they're going to get a bonus for signing you up, and then they're going to break you down bit by bit.
Okay.
They're going to have a picture in the window. It makes their shop window look more attractive than the other agents. So it's just, there's a lot of dirty and kind of lazy tactics, but a lot of them are on a salary, so they'll get paid anyway. So they couldn't care less. They're going to get paid. They might get a little bonus, but a £200 bonus, are you really that bothered if you're getting a salary? But for us, if it's a 50 grand fee, for you personally, you're getting that. You're out there and you're trying to sell that damn house, and that's the difference. And that's what the US, that every agent in the US, I'm pretty certain, is self-employed.
Do you think that model will completely take over in the UK, and that will be almost like a level playing field?
High street agents, without doubt, the majority of them are going to die off. It's just going to be like Debenhams and Topshop. You know, we live in a digital era, and I think, you know, you don't really necessarily sell houses from a high street unless you're walking past that door looking at, you know, the picture in the window. But a lot of these luxury properties are seen by overseas buyers. They're seen on social media. And I think estate agency is a bit of a dying breed, really. And I think it's going to be more towards the digital side of it. And there's sooner or later, there's going to be just a digital estate agent. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
But we're trying to find that perfect balance, because there are some old school people that want to look on Rightmove, on the market, Zoopla, all those kind of things. But we just do everything. We'll give you 50 types of marketing rather than just pictures in the shop window, because you can sell a house through that. But what my argument is, how much could you have sold it for if you gave it the right exposure? It's like if you had if you're selling a luxury car, like a Ferrari or something, but you didn't put it on Auto Trade and you didn't do this really great video and you didn't describe all the features and everything, but you just put it on some local website. Yeah, you're going to sell it, but my job is to give your house as much exposure as possible, which in turn gets more people in the house, which enables me to drive the price up as high as it physically can. But nobody wants to do that because that's a lot of work and a lot of time.
Yeah.
But my business and credibility is going to come from getting the right number. And if I get you the right number, you're going to tell everybody about it. And that's my future business. So
how hard would it be though to use that model on houses that aren't luxury houses? You're looking at like a 2-bed terrace that's run down. It's like someone's looking at a really fancy YouTube video of this house. It doesn't exactly draw you in.
Yeah.
So how would that model work for those sorts of houses?
I don't think it necessarily can. I think because it costs a lot of money to do what you do, are people at that end, if you're selling a 200 grand house, are you going to pay 10 grand for marketing? Are you going to pay a 2.5% fee? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think so. So that's why I prefer dealing with the top end of the market, because, and again, it's not being snobby, but these people are business minded. Yeah. They understand marketing, they understand advertising, they understand the risk that goes into it. So they get it. They definitely get it. And it's almost at the higher end with people being cash buyers. You don't have to go through mortgages and chains and everything else. It's kind of, I want that house, I'm buying that house.
Also, you don't really want to have to walk around this is no disrespect to other people who own it, but like a rundown 2-bed house with like a videographer, a drone coming in. Like, you'd much rather be walking around a £20 million house showing everyone off the luxury that it is.
Yeah, you can have a lot more fun with it.
Yeah.
There are agents out there doing it, and you see them with their gimbal and the iPhone, which is cool. And I like the fact they're doing that because they are trying, but I think you can have a lot more fun with a 2 million, 5 million, 20 million pound house and really build the value of what's gone into that property, the local area, the schools, the golf courses, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I do. So it's the videos we do are sort of 15 minutes long, and it's 70% house, 30% the local area.
Also, it's really, I suppose it's a little bit easier to grow your own personal brand doing that, because
exactly,
I would be so much more attracted to watching a YouTube video of £50 million house, £20 million house, which would attract me to your channel, and then subscribe and then watch everything that you do. Yeah. Which ultimately probably turns into a sale at some point.
The videos are sort of, they're working for you 24/7. That's the thing a lot of the high street agents don't realize is if you're 9 till 5, you're in the office, that's great. But my videos, if they're getting 150,000 views, like that £30 million, that's getting like another 1,000 views every week, I think. So that's constantly new eyes on it. And one of my latest listings is going to be one of the nicest houses in the country by the time this podcast goes out. It's a £15 million house. He said, look, I've been watching you for about a year, come round.
Nice.
I was like, okay, who are you? What's your house? And he was like, this is my address, I'll see you on Monday. And I was like, okay. And I got there and I was like, oh shit, this is a proper house, proper client, like top class, like everything. And I was just like, it does work. And if people just think it's a bit overboard, you don't need to do social media every day, you don't need to do 15-minute video, you do, because they're working for you all the time. There's a lot of eyes on you that are not even looking. Like you saw me on social media, or somebody advised, like things like that's great. That's a great feedback for me, because it shows, whether it's a property developer, a podcaster, celebrity, footballer, there's a lot of people watching that I would never even presumed even watching. I was at a party the other day, like a networking thing. Some A-lister celebrity walks in. So you're that house guy, aren't you? And I was like, oh shit, that's cool. Nice. And I was like sort of blown away by who they were. And I was just like, it's cool that people see it, but it's just, I'm always very like humbled by everything that's gone on. That is just like with the gazebos. Yeah, that gazebo sale's great. Let's go on with the next one. But it's not churn and burn like a lot of agents. Like for me, I'll only take on 4 houses a month. That's it. I can't take on any more, because I need to give people 24/7 service, and I can't just do churn and burn, sell it or don't sell it. I don't care. I need to sell every house, and I need to be committed to those clients.
Mate, I rate it so much, and I'm completely with you on pretty much everything you said in terms of like the philosophy and the culture of the business that you're trying to build. I think it makes complete sense. Yeah. I think that it is the evolution of the luxury end of the market, because how could it not be?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it makes complete sense. Exposure sells.
Yeah.
So like, why wouldn't you give a property that worth 15 million quid as much exposure as possible?
Exactly.
To get the best price point for it, to get the best commission on it. It's just like, it's almost like a no-brainer. Yeah. But obviously, I guess that kind of brings us up to where we're at today, and obviously what's on the next chapter. Obviously, just want to say, like, thank you so much for
appreciate
coming on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been sick.
Yeah, incredible story, mate. Like it's hard for me to sit here and say it, but considering everything you've been through, mate, you've fucking done amazing for yourself.
I appreciate that.
Considering
you've gone, like, you've had a bit of a roller coaster journey, mate.
Standard, and, but I think you'll smash it as well, mate.
Inspiration, mate. Truly inspirational. Thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sound, mate.